everybody and welcome to the Flute Practice. So very often I have students that come into a lesson or join me online for a lesson and they play for me and things are not going as well as they had hoped and they kind of stop and they look at me with this like severely discouraged look and I'm just like, I could play this like yesterday in my practice, it was so good. Why can't I play it when I'm standing in front of you? Every time I have to play for you, it's way more difficult. If I had $1 for every single time I have heard that phrase in a lesson, I would be very, very, very rich because it is so common. Even more so, maybe you've played in concerts, whether it's in a band situation or whether it's solo, and suddenly things start going wrong and you make mistakes in places you've never made mistakes before, or perhaps you've been working on something really like for a long time, whether it's changing your posture, breathing, articulation, or whatever it might be, and suddenly that is just not working in a performance situation. If you don't know what's going on here, this can be incredibly discouraging. Like you could really think you've gone back 10,000 steps. And so I want to explain this today to us. So in order to kind of understand this concept, I kind of use a slightly oversimplified diagram for this, but I think it kind of helps to just understand and prove the point. I imagine that our abilities are a little bit like levels of water or like the tides of the ocean. And when we're in a practice situation, we are at full tide, like we are way up there and we are, everything is going good, got a nice, smooth, flat surface of the water. And if we imagine that our difficulties or our issues, our challenges are like little rocks under that water, they're there very often. Sometimes, they're not really an issue or they don't need to be an issue, but often they are there. They're underlying and they're there. And then what happens is we walk into a lesson and the tide drops a little bit. Stress causes tension. It means that everything is more tight than usual. Mentally, we are suddenly distracted. We have a little bit of adrenaline pumping through our bodies. There are various reasons why this happens, but that tide drops a little bit. And suddenly that rock that was really nicely covered when we were in high tide is starting to show. And then when we're in a performance, for me, the tide drops even more. So we go right down and suddenly that rock becomes a whole lot bigger than we first realized. This is a great thing. I want to start by saying this is such an amazing, amazing, amazing thing. Like for me, a performance is like several practice sessions crammed into one moment, simply because it reveals to us where problems are. And I want to just take a moment to just talk about the types of problems. So this may be a technical issue. Like that rock might be just a technical problem. Your fingers are getting twisted because actually there's a little bit of insecurity between C and D. Like, all of us have that issue. So it might be that specific technical issue. But very often, and I see this a lot in kind of higher level players, often the issue is not so much technical as it is psychological. We do not fully have our thoughts under control and we are not in full control of what we are doing mentally. So we've got to always kind of analyze like what went wrong and why did it go wrong. I have briefly done a video on performance anxiety. I am going to be doing more videos about this because it is super duper duper important. But getting in control of our minds and our brains is so huge. The really great thing about this is what helps us grow. It's the reason I think lessons are really important because they put you under that little bit of extra pressure. Somebody that is like, really picking apart your playing. And invariably issues will crop up that didn't crop up in your practicing. Or perhaps, and this sometimes happens too, is that it was there in your practice session, you just didn't notice it. And when you're a bit nervous, you're a little bit kind of on edge, you sometimes become hyper aware. So that rock may have been peeking out of the water, you just didn't know it was there. Kind of another aspect of this. So for example, say I have been working on releasing throat and jaw tension. So I've been working really intensively with this and I'm finding that in my practicing, like this is starting to kind of seep through into my practicing. Most practice sessions I'm playing and I'm able to release, or at least I feel like I'm able to release. Then I get to my lessons and first couple of lessons, like it is just not happening. Always going back to my bad old habits. Like suddenly I'm just, and this is because your body's under stress now. Your body is trying to kind of like fit all of this together in one world. And it's going to go back to what it's used to and what it's comfortable with and what it feels the easiest. So it's very normal. In a lesson, your teacher will then work with you on these issues. Don't feel stupid. Don't feel like, oh my word, like I can do this. Why am I going back 5,000 million steps? You're not. You're not. Your teacher is usually well aware of the fact that things are easier in practicing than they are in a lesson, and they're easier in a lesson than they are in a performance. This is normal. Like, we have all experienced this. I have experienced this. I know. I promise you, I know. So you're going to work on these issues because your teacher understands that now you need to take what was working in your practice and put it into the pressure situation. A little bit of pressure. And then you're going to take it to a concert or a performance, or whether it's band performance or whatever it might be. Maybe you're playing at your local church, or you're playing for friends and family. And you're going to find once again that lovely relaxation and openness you had is gone, like nowhere to be found. And I find, especially if you're not like really focusing on this and like paying attention to this, you're like, what happened? Like, seriously, have I done nothing? And then you're going to perform a few more times, and you're going to do it again and again and again. And you're going to notice that not only in your practicing is it becoming easier and easier, now in your lessons, it's no longer an issue. You're comfortable, you're doing it nice and easily. And then slowly it starts to trickle through into your performance. And that is when you know that that stone has decreased in size and you are dealing with the issue. Guys, it's the reason I encourage my students to do concerts and performances. It's the reason that I encourage all of you to take music lessons, get music lessons, especially if you're preparing for an exam or a concert or something. Sometimes I will ask colleagues of mine or my old teachers if I can perform for them. Like, can I just come and play my piece through for you? Not because, I necessarily even need them to like fix my technique or do anything, although sometimes they give me super helpful advice. But very often because I just need an extra pair of ears to play it through for, have that sounding board, and just to put myself under a bit of pressure. And I'm like, okay, this person is like judging what I'm about to do. It's getting serious. So next time you are in a lesson and you're struggling to do the things that you were doing so easily and comfortably in a practice session, be super happy. Be grateful. It's part of the process and it's a great thing. I'm going to encourage you today to go and check out my Instagram and my Facebook pages. I am sharing some of my practice journey and my musical journey on there. I'm also about to go on a epic kind of like 2-month trip to Europe, where I'm going to be traveling around to different flute shops and music shops, and I'm playing at a cool like festival. So I'm going to be kind of documenting this whole trip and this whole journey on those platforms, as well as this platform. So if you would like to just kind of get a little daily dose of inspiration, go check out my pages there. Until then, everybody, happy practicing and see you next time.